Present.
Holly Luke,
Present.
Kevin Anderson,
Present.
Justine Snyder, Patrick Collins.
Present.
Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Hi. Good. How you doing?
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Angela Snell
Present.
and Alexandria Martinez.
Present.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Matt Salad, Tecton Industries, Architects, I'm sorry.
Present.
Jeff McElravy, Tecton Architects.
Present.
Neil Joyce, Construction Monitoring Services.
Present.
Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the country due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee is convening by Google Hangout as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer unless asked by the chairperson or the staff person. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for the particular item or guest speaker associated with the item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. I will then call upon the members to offer a motion and then for a second. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. To mute and unmute your telephone, dial *6. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For others in attendance that are expected to present, please hold until your name is called to present. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. To mute and unmute your telephone, dial *6. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. After your presentation, members of the board committee will be given the opportunity to ask questions. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And that is that. So first order of business this afternoon is we have the meeting minutes of July 27, 2020. Any comments or questions on the meeting minutes? There being none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second on the meeting minutes to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of July 27, 2020. All those in favor signify by saying aye when I call your name. Maurice DiPaolo,
Aye.
Kristen Loss,
Aye.
Holly Luke,
Aye.
Kevin Anderson,
Aye.
Patrick Collins,
Aye.
and Justine, have you joined us or no? I don't hear Justine, so Patrick Pitney, aye. So the meeting minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is to review and act on the following bills, schedules, and warrants. There being none tonight, we can skip over this item. We don't need to vote on this, do we? Kristen, I'm going to ask you that.
No, you do not. We can just
Okay,
pass
thank
over
you.
it. Thank you.
All right. Number 4 on the agenda, we're going to hear reports and review and act on the following matters. Report from the owner's project manager. So with that, we will turn it over. And we have, is that you, Neil, presenting tonight?
Yes,
The floor is yours.
yes. In terms of our overall status, we are getting very close to finalizing the estimate, conceptual estimate for the police station piece of the project, as well as an extended amount of site work associated with the municipal campus project. We're holding off on estimating the town hall and the senior center until the scope is a little further clarified.
Very good. Any questions from the committee?
Pat,
Yes, Mo.
Neil, do you have any idea when we'll get the first estimate in?
The preliminary estimate came in on Friday, but I don't believe that it's been vetted by the architect or by myself as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
So we would expect to report back relatively soon.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Anything else from anybody? Okay, Neil, we'll look forward to hearing more information as it becomes available. Next, we have a report from the architect. Matt, is that you up next or Jeff?
Yep.
Matt, go ahead.
So like Neil said, we're working through the estimate now. We do have a brief presentation on project delivery methods, which were briefly discussed at the last meeting. So if you'll permit me, I'll go through that now and share my screen.
Please.
Okay. So basically, we're going to discuss here the two different project delivery methods. The first being design, bid, build, which is the more traditional project delivery under Mass General Law, Chapter 149, and the second being the alternative delivery method, which is CM at risk under Mass General Law, Chapter 149A. So design, bid, build is the traditional delivery method. What this requires essentially is a separate solicitation of general contractors and filed subbidders. So the way this works is we, as the design team, complete 100% bid documents. A project of this size, which is likely to be over $10 million, we're required in the Commonwealth to pre-qualify both general contractors and filed subbidders. So just before we're completed with our bid documents, we'll solicit for pre-qualification. The building committee will elect a subcommittee that will participate in the pre-qualification of these bidders. And it will go through and receive all these statement of qualifications and pre-qualify all those that are eligible to bid on the project. From there, we'll receive filed subbidders. So there's, I believe, 16 filed subbid categories in the Commonwealth, include, from masonry, miscellaneous metals, a lot of the major trades. And it's designed to encourage clarity and open competition within a lot of these trades. From there, once those bids are received and vetted, we will create a bid tabulation of all of the responsible and responsive filed subbidders. And that bid tabulation will then be published and issued via addendum to the general contractors that have been pre-qualified. General contractors will then select their filed subbidders. We don't have any control over who is selected as a filed subbidder. That's between the general contractor and the pre-qualified filed subbidders. And then we will receive a couple of weeks later the general contractor bids. Under the design bid build process, we will select essentially the lowest responsible and responsive general contractors. That's the lowest bid price that we get of a general contractor that's fulfilled the requirements of the pre-qualification process and the requirements of the invitation to bid. And from there, we'll enter into contract with the general contractor, and they'll execute the work as a complete single scope. Alternatively is this construction manager at risk process. So again, this is under Mass General Law, Chapter 149A. And this being a non-traditional process, it requires a pre-approval from the Office of the Inspector General. So we'll petition to the OIG early in the design process, state our case as to why this process is a good fit for the project and for the town. And they'll grant approval for us to move forward. I believe out of the 1,000 or so applications in the past 10 years, there's only been one project that's been denied CM at risk. So it's not a dodgy process. It's pretty straightforward. From there, instead of doing the solicitation for bids of the general contractor, we'll actually early on in the design process at about 60% design development, we'll go through a construction manager selection process, which is a qualifications-based process rather than the lowest bid. So this is a lot like the designer selection law and the solicitation for owners project managers. It's not fee-based. It's based on the qualifications process. So we'll solicit for qualifications. There'll be an interview process, and then there'll be an ultimate selection. From there, the fee will be negotiated, and just like the design bid build process, there still will be filed subbidders, and that still will require a pre-qualification process for projects over $10 million. The difference here is that the construction manager will coordinate and collaborate with the design team and the owner during the final stages of the design development and construction documents in suggesting value engineering suggestions and in ultimately developing the final bid packages. Once the filed subbidders have been awarded, they will generate the guaranteed maximum price, and that's what the project cost will be established. So there's sort of two different timelines in how this works. This is the traditional design bid build process. Here you have the owner at the beginning of the process, and then you will start as you have the qualifications-based selection of the OPM and the designer. In this case, the OPM was selected first, and then they advised and assisted the owner in the designer selection. In both processes, the OPM has project oversight and advises and assists the owner throughout the entire project. And the designer will go through in collaboration with the OPM and the owner, the traditional schematic design development, and construction documents process. From there, partially through construction documents, the general contractor and filed subbid contractor pre-qualification process will commence. That's about 6 to 10 weeks of work as we prepare the bid documents. And then once bid documents are ready, we will issue those out to the bidders. About 3 weeks later, we'll receive the filed subbids. And then 2 to 3 weeks after that, we will receive the general contractor bids. And again, the general contractor will carry the filed subbidder. And then from there, contract is awarded to the general contractor, and we go through the construction process in a traditional method. The CM at risk process, there's a little bit more hands-on between all parties. So the OPM and designer selection starts the same, but here the construction manager is selected under a qualifications-based selection, just like the OPM and the designer. They're brought in during design development, and they play a design advisory role between the architect and the owner. From there, they will go through the filed subbidder qualification and bidding process. And unlike the traditional method where once construction documents and bid packages are complete and the bidders are all awarded, we can start construction, here where we can also release early bid packages for site work, foundations, footings, things like that. So while the design process is ongoing, we could actually start construction. So in this case, we roughly anticipate that it would probably shorten or bring construction schedule ahead by 3 to 4 months approximately. So there's an advantage to that. This process also, because of the advisory role that the construction manager plays, also allows for a little bit more oversight in complex construction projects. So this is often done with school projects that have multiple phases and where specific targeted deadlines are critical to the operation of the new facility. So the things that we need to consider when going through the determination of which delivery method is most appropriate for a project. One is going to be the cost versus quality. Again, you're picking your contractor based on qualifications versus lowest bid. Everybody sort of hears those stories about, the lowest bidder and not able to perform the the quality of work that's up to snuff. Well, here you're looking at the quality of the contractor versus the cost. Schedule, if schedule is important, CM at risk is an important thing to consider because you can accelerate that schedule by overlapping multiple bid packages. Cost of design changes and opportunities for innovation and value engineering, because the construction manager is playing that advisory role. They can bring different ideas from the contractor side to the table early on that'll allow us to bring some different techniques and ways to execute the means and methods of the process, which may end up bringing a little bit more value into the project and save some money during construction. And at the same time, there's a different set of contingencies that are carried. So when you have a CM at risk, the construction manager carries their own contingency as part of that process. So because they're required to collaborate with the design team, a lot of those omissions and design errors that would result in change orders during the traditional design bid build process will be taken out of the construction manager's contingency. Additionally, a second contingency for CM at risk will have to be carried by the owner, because inevitably things like unforeseen conditions, bad soil, things like that, owner requested design changes for things that they didn't anticipate that need changes, or those will have a separate contingency. So CM at risk, there's 2 separate contingencies that are carried, where design bid build, the owner's contingency carries all the risk. So just again, the pros and cons of design bid build. There's a lower cost essentially associated with this in a longer construction period. Those are the main takeaways. At CM at risk, there's an accelerated schedule, but there's a premium to that cost for the construction manager. The estimate that we received that we're going through right now, we asked our estimator to give us a rough estimate on what that premium would be, and it's about a 7.5% increase over the construction cost of the project. So we're not talking a couple $100,000, we're talking a couple $1 million potentially in that premium cost to carry that construction manager. So those are the basic premises between the 2 different delivery methods. And then just briefly, we want to just touch on sort of the next steps. So what we need from the committee and what we're going to be providing over the next week or 2. We need a selection on the project delivery method because that's going to have an impact on the budget that we ultimately take to special town meeting. Whether or not it's design bid build or CM at risk. Just to that point into this project, it's a fairly straightforward project, even though it's a large construction project. We understand that CM at risk has been employed in Shrewsbury successfully over the past few public projects that you guys have had. But there's really minimal phasing to this. It's a fairly straightforward construction process, and we're essentially proposing that this occur on virgin soil. So the existing police will be able to operate in their existing facility. That building could be demolished or repurposed after construction is completed. So the complexity isn't really there for CM at risk, but because it's been a common project delivery method in the town of Shrewsbury, it may make sense to continue that process because you're familiar with it and it's something that's worked out successfully in the past. Once we've finalized the vetting process of the estimate, we'll bring that back to you as soon as next week if we are able to gather everybody next Monday. From there, we'll need to approve and set the budget. If it's higher than what was anticipated by the committee or what we believe that the town will find supportable, we'll provide some VE suggestions. We're presenting this budget in 3 different ways, so there'll be 3 separate budgets. One is traditional design bid build as a base bid site package that has to do with essentially just what is required for the police station project. That same scope of work with the premium for CM at risk. And then a third design bid build delivery of the entire campus plan as a single project. So not town hall building renovation addition, not COA building renovation, but all of the site work for the entire master plan is one package as well. So you'll be able to see those 3 separate costs and sort of weigh what the benefit to pursuing one method or one scope versus the other. And then we can have this open discussion about potential VE suggestions. We can always massage the building to make it a little bit smaller and in other methods and in ways that we can reduce cost within the project. From there, we'll have to discuss the other boards and committee approvals prior to the town meeting and the ballot vote for this project. And what we need to do and what you think is the appropriate community outreach methods and modalities going forward up into that town meeting so that we can make sure that the public is well informed and that the project garners the most support. Over the coming weeks, we're also going to be providing some cost, opinion of probable cost on what the town hall 2nd floor addition is going to be. Our structural engineer right now is preparing a narrative that we're going to send off to our estimators so that we can get a ballpark figure on what that cost is going to be. We're also going to be sending the renovation and addition conceptual designs to the estimator so that we can get some costs associated with what that's going to cost as well. And then down the road over the next month or so, we're going to take all this information once it's all approved and vetted and finalize it into a final report that'll be issued to close out essentially the feasibility study package that can be then shared with the town. So that's essentially what we have to present tonight. So any questions or comments, be happy to take them.
Okay, thanks, Matt. A lot of information. Any questions from the committee?
Pat, this is Kristen Last.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Could you read Keith's comments into the record, or do you want me to?
No, that's all. I will do that. I did. I was going to save that for the end. I did want to see if there were any live questions at this point, and then I was going to get that. But thank you for reminding me. Any questions out there at this time?
Mr. Pitney, I would offer just one comment.
Sure, Pat. Go ahead.
Just from public schools perspective, which I know this is not a school we're building, this is a police station, but just a little bit of the short history is that the Mass School Building Authority, in building schools throughout the Commonwealth, provided some financial incentive for school districts to test out the CM at risk delivery method. And over a span of time, they did a study of, I think it was about 5 or 6 years of projects they looked at, and over 115 school projects. And of that 115, school districts chose 42% of the time to do CM at risk and 58% to do design bid build. So it was almost like an even split. And that was really to get public schools used to this idea of using CM at risk, especially for complex projects or time-sensitive projects. And so it's the school side is very well versed in using CM at risk. And I know that in my time in dealing with a variety of school projects, and most recently being a member of the building committee for the Beal project, and using that delivery method of CM at risk for that project, my opinion is that delivery method of CM at risk is superior to design bid build for a variety of reasons. Some of them mentioned too, a little bit hard to grasp or put tangible piece on is the quality, but certainly the process has been extremely smooth with the most recent school building project with Beal School. It does cost a little bit more. If my memory serves me right on the school side, that the so-called premium, which sounds very expensive, it's not, for a few more percentage points, was somewhere in the range of like 3 to 5% in terms of hard cost more. But also what you don't face is, likely lots of change orders. And so I'm a strong advocate of CM at risk. I just wanted to provide a little bit more data from a school building perspective. I'd say it's very commonplace, and it's also very commonplace in the private sector. So I would be a strong advocate for CM at risk in this case, given the size of the project, and also, if we can do some of the other site work early, some delivery early, there could be some overall site savings, if you will, in terms of just general conditions to offset that additional so-called premium cost. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anything else out there?
Pat?
Yes, Mo.
I'm also strongly in favor of construction manager at risk. We use it at the library. I can't remember if we used it in the fire stations, but it's worked out extremely well for us. And there might be a slight premium, but for the lack of headaches that we've had with it, I think it's worth it. I was on the high school, Oak Middle School building renovation committee, and that was a traditional bid. And if anybody remembers that, it was a disaster at both buildings. We had 3 general contractors at Oak because we had to take the low bid. And it was a disaster. Since we've done this, things have been a lot smoother. And I think that having a CM at risk and having them almost as a partner cuts down a lot of the adversarial and the little nickel and diming here and there because it appears that both sides work more as a team. On the other side, it's like you're always looking to keep the cost down and what's the other person's motivation and what they're doing. So I think based on our history, I would go for the construction manager at risk. I don't know what we have to do to make the case to the Inspector General, but just anecdotally from what I've seen, I think it's a better way to go.
Okay, thanks, Mo. Mr. Collins, was Sherwood done with CM at risk? Do you recall?
Yes, it was.
Okay, because I know we seen that came in well under the final estimate, and that was nice to see at the time. I did have a couple of questions for Matt, just so I understand this process. And Matt, if you could just talk about it. It sounds like you said under the design, bid, and build, the general contractor is the lowest bidder, and is that required by law that you have to take that bidder?
Yes.
And then they go out and get the subcontractors. I'm assuming again, it's based on lowest bid.
It's not. No. In fact, during the bidding, during the filed sub bid process, what you'll see a lot of if you go to a bid opening is there's a line in the bid forms about exclusions and exceptions, and their general contractors and filed subbidders will actually list the subsequent contractors that they will exclusively work with or refuse to work with based on past experiences and other reasons. So they're not required to take the lowest subbidders. So when you open the filed subbidders and you add up all the lowest ones, you'll sit there and tabulate it and say, oh, we're great. We're 5% under budget at this point based on what our estimate was. And then they take and then the general contractor might take the middle of the road, and now you're over budget because they're not required to take the lowest.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, and I did have another question on the 7.5% premium. So if the bid were, say, if the estimate were, let's use $100 million, it was $100 million project, and it came in at 90 million, the final cost, would the 7.5% premium be based on that 90 million or based on the 100 million?
It's the fee carried by the construction manager, so that would be on whatever it'd be off of their GMP. Basically, it wouldn't be off of the estimate value.
It would not. It would be off the actual cost.
It would be.
Are you trying to come in?
When you go into the process, that's after they receive the sub bids, Matt.
But say that again, Jeff. You were cutting out a little bit.
Say again when you establish the GMP. Matt?
I'm not sure I got that, Jeff.
Okay, I got bad connection. I'm sorry.
No, you're good now.
All right, so the fee is based on the GMP. Would you re-explain when the GMP is set?
Yeah, so the guaranteed maximum price is set after we receive the filed subbidders during CM at risk. So once the filed subbidders are selected, we already have the construction manager, and then once everybody is on board, then the guaranteed maximum price is established.
Okay. And then again, just for my understanding purposes, if you don't hit that number and you go over, that would be on the construction manager. Anything over that guaranteed maximum price.
It depends on what it is. So say you're in you have the guaranteed maximum price established, and you're in construction, and we find petroleum in the soil or a buried tank or something like that. That would be a change order beyond the guaranteed maximum price.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to understand what we're getting into, because again, this is new to me, so I just like to have a basic understanding. Thank you for the information. Keith Baldinger is not able to be here this afternoon. He's on vacation, but he did send me an email, which I would like to read into the minutes. And it says, "Good afternoon, Patrick. With regards to CM at risk versus design bid build procurement, I understand that CM at risk may come at a premium price when compared to design bid build, but I believe it allows for the best overall value to the town. The main reason for this is that it creates a team approach to building where all stakeholders are involved in the process. The architect, OPM, and construction manager work together at a much earlier stage in the project to ensure that the town receives the best overall product. The current Beale School project, the library project, and the Sherwood Middle School are all excellent examples of how CM at risk has worked for the town of Shrewsbury. I believe CM at risk allows for an easier problem resolution process, as the entire project team has the town's best interests and are more apt to work together since the relationship began during the design process. An added benefit is the accelerated schedule we could achieve on this product." So those are Keith's comments, which I tend to agree with from everything that I've heard up until now. So, anything else out there for comments or questions? Anything from the staff that they'd like to add in to this?
This is Kristen Lass. Just wanted to ask if Neil could provide any input based upon his past experience with police station projects. The town of Shrewsbury has had a lot of experience with school projects, and we also use this method on the library renovation and expansion. But we have not done a police station in many, many years. So, Neil, could you provide your input related to a police station just to have that frame of reference?
Sure, Kristen. Up until about 3 years ago, the CM at risk process, I think, had been used twice on a public safety building within the Commonwealth. In the last, I would say, I'm going to say 3 to 5 years, we've seen an increasing number of public safety projects that have been procured and delivered via CMR. From my own perspective, we've done both design bid build and CM at risk projects. We've had mutual success with both delivery methods, but I think for all of the reasons that have been mentioned in terms of expediting the schedule, managing a project that ultimately could wind up being phased and touching many buildings across the municipal campus. And then, of course, your quality and your ability to choose the construction manager that you're putting your faith and hope and money into in delivering the project. Those are really the intrinsic values that you want to have for the project moving forward. That makes sense.
It does. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks.
So if we go with CM at risk, that would be for the entire project as we move forward, even though there's a possibility that it may be done in phases.
It would depend on how the RFQ was written for the CM. If we were to procure the services of the CM prior to receiving financial authorization from the town, it would likely be for the police station project only. I would really need to think about how we would word the RFQ for the CM to include those other ancillary projects, the town hall and the COA.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if we decide to go that route, if that would simplify the process going forward, down the road.
I think it probably would, but I would say that once we make the application to the Office of the Inspector General, we would really need to have that nailed down. I would not be comfortable planning one thing but reporting another to the OIG's office. You need to be consistent and transparent with that.
I believe, Neil, the only time they've ever denied a CM at risk project was a municipality that sort of left an open scope for multiple projects over their town or city, without having everything sort of locked up and designed and detailed.
Yeah, I can see how that would be problematic. I think when you issue the RFQ, it really needs to, the project scope really needs to be clearly defined.
Okay. Anything else out there? Now, I do not believe we'll be voting on this tonight. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. This evening's purpose was so that the committee members could understand to the greatest extent practicable the two delivery methods and ask questions. the vote will come in a subsequent period, again, after we have a better chance of looking at the estimate and being prepared to
Sure.
review that as well.
All right, very good. Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I mean, I would prefer, before we voted on something so important, I'd rather have everybody here as well. So, excellent. And that would, I guess, if there's nothing else out there, that would bring us to agenda item 5, the potential presentation on the cost estimate for the police station, but it doesn't sound like we're ready for that. It sounds like that's for another day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. And it sounds like, Matt, you had indicated you would like to set a date for next week if possible?
Yeah, I believe we'll be ready next week with it.
Will you be ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, can you send a poll out on that, whatever it is, I forget what it's called.
Yep, I can send out a calendar invite.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, are we
All
just continuing on the Monday at 4:30? Is that the goal here?
That's my understanding, unless anybody has a problem with it.
Nope, that was my understanding as well. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure
Okay.
we were all clear.
I like it. All right, I like the 4:30. It's done early and everybody doesn't have to stay out too late. All right.
Since we all have crazy plans at 7 o'clock
Exactly.
on a Monday night.
Yeah. Well, I'm an empty nester now, so you never know what's going
Oh,
to
you're
happen.
getting wild and crazy over there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, with that, I guess we can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative or not affirmative if you so desire. Mo DiPaolo,
Aye.
Kristen Lass,
Aye.
Holly Luke,
Aye.
Kevin Anderson,
Aye.
Patrick Collins,
Aye.
Patrick Pitney. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.